My sister gambled away my entire inheritance. When I sued her, she blackmailed me and turned our family against me. Then she vanished with $200K from her job, and our mom's shocking confession changed everything. I, M29, have an older sister, Megan, F32, who I used to be close with growing up. Our relationship changed drastically after our grandmother passed away 2 years ago. Some background. Our parents divorced when I was 10 and Megan was 13. Dad was a workaholic software engineer who spent more time with his computer than his family. Mom was a high school teacher who struggled with depression. Their marriage had been rocky for years, with constant fighting and long periods of icy silence. The divorce was messy and painful for everyone involved. Dad moved across the country for a lucrative job opportunity, leaving Mom to raise us alone. We only saw him a couple times a year after that, usually awkward visits filled with stilted small talk and forced family activities. Over time, he became more of a stranger than a father. Mom did her best, but she struggled financially and emotionally as a single parent. That's where our grandmother stepped in. Grandma Jean was Mom's mother, a tough-as-nails former nurse who had raised 5 kids mostly on her own after Grandpa died young. She lived just a few blocks away and became our rock during those turbulent years. Grandma would watch us after school, making sure we did our homework and always had a hot meal waiting. She bought us clothes and school supplies when Mom couldn't afford to. She even paid for Megan's college tuition, allowing her to attend a prestigious private university instead of the local community college. Grandma was always closer to Megan. They shared a love of classic movies and would spend hours watching old films together. They went shopping and got their nails done during girls' days out. As Grandma got older, Megan would help care for her, driving her to doctor's appointments and helping around the house. I was close with Grandma too, but not to the same extent. I was more of a quiet, nerdy kid who preferred reading books or playing video games to social activities. Still, I visited her regularly and helped out where I could, mowing her lawn and fixing things around the house. Growing up, Megan was always the golden child in our family. She was outgoing, popular, and excelled in school. I was more introverted and struggled socially, often feeling like I was living in her shadow. This dynamic continued into adulthood, with Megan landing a high-paying job as an accountant straight out of college, while I bounced between various entry-level positions trying to find my path. When Grandma passed away 2 years ago, it hit us all hard. She had been the glue holding our fractured family together. At the reading of her will, we learned she had left most of her estate to be split evenly between Megan and me. It came out to about $150,000 each, more money than I had ever seen in my life. Megan was named the executor of the will. At the time, I had just been laid off from my job at a struggling tech startup. I was struggling to make ends meet, living off unemployment and picking up odd jobs where I could. Megan suggested that she hold on to my inheritance money and invest it for me until I got back on my feet. She said she had some great investment opportunities through her work and could help the money grow. I trusted Megan completely. Despite our differences growing up, she had always looked out for me. She helped me write my first resume, let me crash on her couch when I was between apartments, and was always there to listen when I needed to talk. So when she offered to manage my inheritance, I agreed without hesitation. For the next year and a half, things seemed to be going well. Megan would give me occasional updates about how my money was growing. I was focused on rebuilding my career, finally landing a good job as a software developer 6 months ago. It felt like my life was finally getting on track. That's when things started to unravel. With my new financial stability, I reached out to Megan about accessing my inheritance money. I was thinking about buying a house and wanted to use it for a down payment. But Megan got really evasive, making excuses about why she couldn't transfer it to me yet. She said the investments were tied up, or the market was volatile, always with a promise that she'd get it to me soon. This went on for weeks. Every time I brought it up, Megan would change the subject or have some new reason why she couldn't give me the money yet. I started to get suspicious and pressed her harder for answers. Finally, after I threatened to get a lawyer involved, Megan broke down and admitted the truth. She had gambled away almost all of my inheritance money. Apparently, she had a secret gambling addiction for years that spiraled out of control after Grandma died. She used my money to try to win back her losses, but just dug herself deeper and deeper into debt. I was absolutely devastated. That money represented so much more than just dollars and cents. It was Grandma's final gift to us, a chance to build a better future. And Megan had thrown it all away on her addiction. The betrayal cut deep, shaking the foundation of trust our relationship was built on. When I told our mom what happened, her reaction shocked me even more. Instead of being angry at Megan, she defended her. She said Megan was going through a difficult time and that I should forgive her because she's family. Mom even suggested I give Megan the little bit of inheritance money that was left, less than $10,000, to help her get back on her feet. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like I was being punished for being responsible, while Megan was being coddled for her terrible choices. All those feelings of being second best to Megan came rushing back. Once again, her needs were being put before mine by our family. I gave Megan 2 weeks to come up with a plan to pay me back in full. I told her I didn't care how she did it, take out loans, sell her car, whatever it took. But I wanted my money back. When that time was up and she had nothing but more excuses and vague promises, I told her I was taking legal action. Megan begged me not to sue her. She cried about how it would destroy the family and ruin her career if it came out that she had stolen money. She swore she would pay me back eventually if I just gave her more time. But I had reached my limit. I couldn't trust her words anymore. I hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit against Megan for the full amount she stole, plus legal fees. It felt surreal taking such drastic action against my own sister, but I felt I had no other choice. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about Megan facing consequences for her actions for once in her life. Mom is absolutely furious with me. She says I'm tearing the family apart over just money and that I should be more understanding of Megan's struggles. She's been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between guilt-tripping me and angrily demanding I drop the lawsuit. I finally had to block her number for my own sanity. The case is moving forward and Megan was just served with papers last week. I haven't spoken to her directly since then, but I've heard through the family grapevine that she's a mess. Part of me feels guilty for causing her pain. After all, she is still my sister, and I do love her despite everything. But a bigger part of me feels this is the right thing to do. Megan made her choices. She chose to steal from me, lie to me for months, and gamble away money that wasn't hers to lose. Now she has to face the repercussions of those choices. I can't protect her from the consequences of her actions anymore. I never wanted things to get to this point. I keep thinking about how disappointed Grandma would be to see us fighting like this. But I also think she would understand why I'm doing this. She always taught us to stand up for ourselves and to do what's right, even when it's difficult. So Reddit, AITA for suing my sister over my stolen inheritance? Should I have found another way to handle this? The lawsuit is moving forward, but it's not too late to stop it if I'm making a huge mistake. I'm really struggling with this situation and could use some outside perspectives. Update 1. It's been about a month since my original post and a lot has happened, so I wanted to give an update. First, thank you to everyone who commented and offered support and advice. It really helped me feel less alone in this situation. Shortly after I posted, Megan reached out wanting to meet in person to explain everything. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near her apartment. As soon as I saw her, I was shocked by how different she looked. Megan had always taken pride in her appearance, but now she seemed disheveled and much older than her 32 years. She launched into a long, emotional story about how her gambling addiction started. Apparently, it began years ago with casual poker games in college. Over time, it escalated to online gambling and eventually high-stakes games at underground casinos. She said after Grandma died, the addiction spiraled out of control. She was gambling almost every night, chasing the high of winning and the rush of risk. Megan swore she never meant to hurt me. She said she genuinely believed she could win back what she lost and return my money before I ever knew it was gone. Tears streamed down her face as she described the shame and self-loathing she felt every time she lost more of my inheritance. I almost felt bad for her. The pain in her eyes seemed genuine, and I could see glimpses of the sister I used to be so close to. But then she got to the real reason for the meeting. She wanted me to drop the lawsuit and instead accept a payment plan where she'd pay me back $500 a month. I did the math in my head. At that rate, it would take over 25 years to repay what she stole. When I pointed this out, Megan got defensive. She said it was the best she could do right now and I should be grateful she was trying to make things right at all. I refused her offer, saying it wasn't nearly enough. That's when Megan's demeanor changed completely. Her tears dried up and her voice took on a hard edge. She accused me of being selfish and uncaring about her struggles. She said I was trying to ruin her life over a mistake, and that I was no better than our absent father. The meeting ended with Megan storming out, but not before she threatened to tell everyone in the family about some mistakes I made as a teenager if I didn't drop the suit. I was shocked she would stoop so low. The incident she was referring to happened when I was 17. I had gotten drunk at a party and kissed my best friend's girlfriend. It was a terrible mistake that I deeply regretted. I had confided in Megan about it at the time, swearing her to secrecy. Now she was using it as blackmail against me. A few days after the disastrous meeting with Megan, Mom called me in tears. Apparently, Megan had told her all about our conversation, but twisted everything to make herself look like the victim. She claimed I had cruelly rejected her sincere attempts to make things right, and that I was determined to destroy her life out of spite. Mom begged me to reconsider the lawsuit. She even offered to take out a second mortgage on her house to pay me back instead. I was tempted to accept just to be done with it all, but ultimately declined. This was Megan's mess to fix, not Mom's. I couldn't let her sacrifice her own financial security to bail Megan out yet again. The final straw came last week. I found out through my cousin Sarah that Megan had been bad-mouthing me to our entire extended family. She was telling everyone that I was greedy and heartless, willing to send my own sister to jail over an honest mistake. She conveniently left out the part about stealing my inheritance and lying to me for months. Several relatives reached out to scold me for my actions. My Uncle Joe, who I've always been close to, called to tell me how disappointed he was in me. My Aunt Lisa sent a scathing email about how I was betraying family loyalty. Even my teenage cousin Tommy posted something on Facebook about how I was worse than Judas for turning on my own sister. I was furious that Megan was trying to turn the family against me when she was the one who stole from me. So I decided to set the record straight. I wrote a long email detailing exactly what Megan had done and sent it to our entire extended family. I included bank statements and other proof to back up my claims. The response to my email has been mixed. Some family members, like Sarah and my Aunt Karen, have apologized for believing Megan's lies and offered their support. They shared stories of times Megan had borrowed money from them and never paid it back, or other instances of her being irresponsible with finances. Others are angry at me for airing dirty laundry and say I should have kept this private. My Uncle Joe said that while he now understood why I was upset, he still thought taking legal action against family was going too far. A few relatives, particularly on Mom's side, are still firmly on Megan's side and think I'm blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Mom is more upset than ever. She left me a voicemail sobbing about how I've ruined any chance of reconciliation by exposing Megan to the family. She said I was being cruel and unforgiving, and that Grandma would be ashamed of how I was acting. Her words stung, but I don't regret sending that email. I'm tired of being painted as the bad guy when I'm the victim here. The lawsuit is moving forward despite all the family drama. We have our first court date next month. Megan's lawyer has reached out about possibly settling out of court, but so far their offers have been insultingly low. Unless something changes dramatically, it looks like we're headed for trial. I never wanted things to get to this point. Growing up, Megan was my protector and confidant. I looked up to her so much. Now I barely recognize the person she's become. Part of me still loves her and wants to believe she can change, but a bigger part knows I have to protect myself now, even if that means cutting ties with my sister. I'll post another update after the court date. Thanks again to everyone for the support during this difficult time. It means more than you know. Update 2. I know it hasn't been that long since my last update, but some major developments have happened that I wanted to share. 2 days ago, I got a frantic call from Mom. Apparently, Megan had disappeared. She hadn't shown up for work in days and wasn't answering her phone. Mom went to her apartment and found it completely cleared out. All of Megan's belongings were gone. At first, we were worried something bad had happened to her. Megan has been in a dark place lately, and Mom feared she might have hurt herself. We were about to call the police to file a missing persons report when Mom found a note Megan had left taped to the back of her bedroom door. In the note, Megan admitted to stealing money from her workplace as well as from me. She said the gambling addiction had completely taken over her life, and she owed dangerous people a lot of money. She said she couldn't face the consequences of her actions and was leaving to start over somewhere new. She begged us not to look for her. I was in shock. I knew Megan had problems, but I never imagined she would do something like this. Part of me was angry that she was running away instead of facing what she'd done. But mostly, I was sad that things had gotten to this point. Despite everything, she's still my sister, and I worried about what kind of trouble she might be in. Mom was absolutely devastated by Megan's disappearance. She blamed herself for not seeing how bad Megan's addiction had gotten. She also blamed me, saying my lawsuit had driven Megan to this desperate act. We had a huge argument where years of pent-up resentments came pouring out. In the heat of the moment, Mom revealed some things I never knew. Apparently, when Megan and I were kids, Megan had Stolen money from mom multiple times to fund her gambling. It started small, taking cash from mom's purse to play poker with friends. But it escalated over the years to Megan draining mom's bank account and maxing out her credit cards. Mom always covered it up to protect Megan. She would work extra shifts and take out loans to replace the stolen money. She admitted she should have gotten Megan help back then, instead of enabling her behavior. But she was afraid of how it would look if people found out, so she kept Megan's problem a secret. This revelation made me see our whole family dynamic in a new light. So much made sense now. Why mom always seemed to favor Megan, why Megan got away with so much growing up. I was angry that mom had hid this from me for so long. All those years I felt inferior to Megan, and it turns out she had been struggling with this addiction the whole time. The day after Megan disappeared, I got a call from her workplace. Turns out, she had embezzled over $200,000 from the company over the past year. She had been doctoring the books to cover her tracks, but an audit finally caught the discrepancies. They were pursuing criminal charges against her and wanted to know if I had any information on her whereabouts. I told them everything I knew, which wasn't much. Part of me felt guilty, like I was betraying Megan by cooperating with the authorities, but she brought this on herself with her actions. I couldn't protect her from the consequences anymore. The police are now involved in searching for Megan. They've interviewed mom and me multiple times, combing through Megan's financial records and communications for any clues to where she might have gone. My lawsuit has been put on hold given the circumstances. The detective handling the case said if Megan isn't found soon, she'll likely be charged in absentia. Mom is a mess, constantly calling me in tears begging me to help find Megan. She's convinced that if we just talk to her, we can persuade her to come home and face the music. But honestly, I don't know what I would even say to Megan at this point if we did find her. The trust between us has been shattered. This whole situation is so much bigger than I ever imagined when I first posted here. What started as a dispute over inheritance money has exploded into a criminal investigation spanning multiple states. I'm still processing everything and trying to figure out how to move forward. I'll update again if there are any major developments in the search for Megan. Right now, all we can do is wait and hope she turns herself in before things get even worse. Update 3. It's been about 2 months since Megan disappeared, and I wanted to give one final update on the situation. Megan was found last week living in a small town about 500 miles away. She had dyed her hair blonde, was using a fake name, and was working as a waitress for cash under the table. Someone recognized her from a news story about missing persons and called the police. When the police picked her up, they found she had almost $50,000 in cash hidden in her apartment. Apparently, she had won big at an underground casino shortly before fleeing. Instead of using the money to pay back what she stole, she ran. Megan's now in custody facing multiple felony charges for embezzlement and fraud. Her lawyer reached out to me about possibly testifying on her behalf for a more lenient sentence. He said if I spoke about her addiction and our family history, it might help her case. I declined. As harsh as it may sound, I think Megan needs to face the full consequences of her actions this time. Mom is still struggling to accept everything that's happened. She's been to visit Megan in jail several times. She keeps trying to convince me to forgive Megan and help her, but I'm standing firm. Our relationship has become very strained. I'm not sure it will ever fully recover. The hardest part was when Mom brought up Grandma. She said Grandma would want us to forgive Megan and come together as a family. It made me wonder what Grandma would think of this whole mess. Would she be disappointed in Megan? In me? I'll never know for sure. As for me, I've decided to drop my civil lawsuit against Megan. With the criminal charges she's facing, it seems pointless to pursue it further. I doubt I'll ever see that money again anyway. I'm trying to make peace with that and move on with my life. This whole ordeal has changed me in ways I'm still discovering. I'm much more cautious now about who I trust, even family. I'm working on setting better boundaries and standing up for myself more. I've also started volunteering with a gambling addiction support group. Seeing how this disease can destroy lives and families has motivated me to try to help others avoid the same fate. Maybe some good can come out of this situation after all. Megan's trial is set to start in a few months. I'm not sure yet if I'll attend. Part of me wants to see this through to the end, but another part wants to just move on and leave the past behind. I guess I still have some soul-searching to do. Thank you to everyone who has followed my story and offered support along the way. Writing these updates has been therapeutic in its own way. I'm not sure what the future holds for me or my family, but I'm trying to stay hopeful. One day at a time.